Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning. My name is Paul Van Ast. I'm with San Gabriel Valley Habitat for Humanity. I'm the Director of Donor Partnerships. I think more relevant to this conversation is I'm an Altadenan. My home is on Stonehurst, just west of Casitas. And luckily, I didn't lose my home. I'm not home yet because I'm still in the remediation process. I know what it's like to have to fight with insurance. Can I get an amen from anybody fighting with insurance? Amen. I know what it's like to go to the state insurance commissioner because my insurance company's not doing what they're supposed to. I got a nod over here. I know what it's like to have my insurance company tell me no more ALE. And now I got to foot my mortgage and the place I'm renting. So I want to acknowledge your trauma over the last 18 months. It's not just January 7th and 8th. It's been a year and a half. Now, I think the original meaning of this meeting was to come for people who have reverse mortgages. But just in chatting with some of you, I know there's people who didn't have a reverse mortgage, but had no insurance. We've got some people who are in the same situation as me. They didn't lose their home, but they had smoke and ash, and rodents came into their house while they weren't in there. We've really found that each family in Altadena is very unique. And we try to meet with those families where they're at and learn about their circumstances so we can help them as best as possible. But I'm really excited that we're here with you today to share with you about how we can help you rebuild. And I do want to commend each and every one of you on your strength and your determination to move back to Altadena. My first heartbreak was when I learned my neighbors sold and moved out of town. It was too much. Their son lost his school and it was just too much for them. And that's when it was real for me. But I'm so happy that you're all here today and that we can help you on your journey to get back home in Altadena, back into your community with your neighbors and your friends in Altadena. I want to turn it over to our CEO, Bryan Wong, who's going to share a little bit about how we can help you get back in Altadena. So thank you so much for being here this morning, and love to speak with you after the sessions. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. We thought it was really important to come back and meet as a group. So much has changed. As you guys are all aware, this is just a crazy, fluid point in time. And there's been so much information that's come up that I think sometimes it gets lost. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that anybody who wants to come back to Altadena can come back to Altadena. So our goal is not to tell you about what's going to happen in the future, but it's to tell you what you can do today. When we first came out and we first talked about what was going on, we thought we would be able to help with 7 homes in a year. We had 3 designed houses. We really didn't know how quick the process was going to be. But within this time, we now have about 40 houses that you can pick from. We have funding basically to cover things such as reverse mortgages, which are very, very difficult. We have programs that are in place to help for families that don't have insurance to figure out how to bridge these gaps. So a lot of items have come to bear in the last couple of months that are going to be very, very helpful. One of the newest products that we have coming out, and Paul touched on it just for a second, we know everybody is being impacted by the extended living funds that they have. So we have a product that's coming out for breathing room. And this really is to say, if your insurance is running out, and you're getting really concerned about how am I going to make my payments? How am I going to make my car payments? How am I going to pay for my kids' school, let alone pay for rent and food? We have a product that is going to help you. And this is for basically all families who are building with us, that we're going to have approximately $100,000 up to $100,000 per family. So you will have that breathing room. We need to help get that stress off of you so you can focus on the most important things in your life and not worry about whether you're going to be able to pay your bills or not. So please keep in mind, whatever your situation is, we're here to help you. We might not have all of the answers, but we're going to have a lot of answers. So at the end of all of this, please take a moment and speak to some of our staff that are here, or call us. We'll post the numbers in the best ways to get hold of us. We know and understand every single situation is very uniquely different. So don't worry about it. Talk to us and we will find it. Even if you have been told it can't be done, give us a call. Let's see what we can do. You know, up to this point in time, we have about 40 different homes that are somewhere in this process of either going through site plans, that are in construction, that are getting permits, that people are moving into. So as you're driving around your homes, your lots, throughout Altadena, you're going to start seeing the Habitat signs everywhere. And that's because we now have the ability to get this stuff going, and I mean get going today. So one of the biggest surprises, I think, for a lot of families is how fast we're ready to go. This isn't something that's going to take us 18 months to do. This is from the time that you decide which of these many houses are going to fit your lot, whether you want or need an ADU, whether it'll fit, what the site plan is, and then you're into permits, and 3 months later, you should be in a house. I know that sounds fast, but that's where we're at. So there's a lot of information that's flowing around. The reason that people come to Habitat is we're a one-stop shop. You only work with us. You don't have to work with the county. You don't have to work with the architect. We are the builder. You have questions. You talk to us. We fix them. When we give you quotes or prices, that's what it is. You don't have to worry about, oh, I didn't talk to whoever. That's going to be an additional expense. So there's a peace of mind knowing that once you start, we will take it to the conclusion for you. We understand where each of you are at. You know, the one thing that's a little bit different about this program than the traditional Habitat program is a traditional Habitat program is designed for first-time home buyers, people that have never been in homes. We understand clearly that that is not the program. Which means we don't have things for this particular build, things like sweat equity or ties to your title, restrictive deeds. We don't have any of that stuff that we would normally have in a typical Habitat project. So, you know, with all of that being said, there are a lot of resources out there, whether it's to build a new ADU, the breathing room loan, or actually it's not a loan, but more of an advance. These are the things that are available to you very, very quickly. So take a moment and talk to our staff about how this is going to go. I have a really quick question, just a general question. How many people have filed with Edison for a fast pay to see what it would be without going through litigation? So just a couple. Have you guys received any numbers yet? Yeah? No? Okay. So they have a process and it's going through. And I know a handful of people have done this. And I'm going to tell you that Habitat, we don't care whether you settle or whether you litigate. But I got to tell you personally, information has value. If you haven't gone through the fast pay to see what the offer is, you should. This is really important for each of you to know what the baseline is going to be. Anybody who tells you you shouldn't do it or you don't need to do it, I personally would be a little cautious. Anybody who's trying to keep information from me, I'm worried about. So know this is about you and your livelihood, what you're going to be doing, take the moment to find out what's out there. Whether you take it or not, that's up to you and your family, but know what's there. I can't emphasize that enough. Know what's available to you. It's all part of the process. This is really, really confusing to everybody, and we realize that. With all of that said, I want to take a moment and introduce Senator Perez, one of the greatest supporters of the Altadena area, not only because of the fire, but in general this is her area. She has done so much to help each of you get the city built faster. Senator Perez.
Good morning. It's really lovely to be here with you all. I first of all want to take a moment just to recognize Bryan, Wong, and the entire team here at San Gabriel Valley Habitat for Humanity that has been doing the work day in and day out to help Altadena and individual residents with the rebuilding process. And they have really done a tremendous job. As you can see here, this has really been a labor of love, whether it has been the Habitat for Humanity or the Foothill Catalog that has really stepped up to make sure that Altadena residents are able to return and come back to their homes and rebuild expeditiously. And that's what today's convening is about, is really supporting each and every single one of you with that rebuild process. I recognize that so many are in different phases of this recovery process. I have friends who personally experienced a total loss, who are still struggling with the trauma of what happened that night, who still to this day haven't been able to have a full conversation with me about that. And I also know people that have returned home, who have stepped foot into fully rebuilt homes. And what I want you all to know is that we are here for you regardless of where you may be at in that recovery process, whether you've not started at all or whether you've gone through the full rebuild and you're making connections to your utilities and you still have outstanding questions. And really that's what today is about. Habitat for Humanity has been so tremendous in this process. And when we first talked about them hosting this event, they really wanted to make sure that they were creating a space where community members could get their questions answered. And whether you all choose to go through that process and rebuild with Habitat for Humanity, or you're going through another process, they're here to answer your questions. They have lots of expertise. They've been doing this now, as you've heard. They have completely scaled up the work that they've been doing to meet the needs of the Altadena community. And we have been very happy to partner with them. Last year, we secured $2 million to invest towards modular housing here in Altadena. $1 million of those dollars went towards San Gabriel Valley Habitat for Humanity, and we're continuing to make those investments in two organizations like this one that are on the ground doing the work. So again, I just want to remind you all that you all are at the center of this recovery process. And as you continue to raise your needs to us, identify different problems, we are going to continue to respond as an office. We're going to work with community partners like the ones that you see here today to help get your questions answered. So I really hope that you'll utilize this time. We have a second convening just like this one happening later on this afternoon so that we can make sure that we're hitting different populations. We know not everybody's necessarily available at this time on a Monday. We have folks that are available later, and we're going to continue to host convenings like this one. So please make sure to ask your questions. If there's any way I can be of service, I have various members of my team here. If anyone wants to raise their hand, you can see we have my team members here as well. We do lots of casework, whether you're dealing with insurance, if you have any questions for state agencies, we're always happy to assist. Even if you have questions on challenges you're facing, maybe with the county, the permitting process, we can help with guiding you there and connecting you to the right person. And I know we have Bryan here and the Habitat for Humanity here with their team that are ready to answer all of your questions about that rebuild process. So I'm hoping you all will walk away with lots of information today. You'll get your questions answered, and we'll continue this rebuild process together. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Senator Perez. Really appreciate you being here and for your support. So thank you. Maybe see you back this afternoon too for the other convening. So thank you for spending your Monday with us. Really appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. My name is Laura. We have one mic.
I'm Lori. Hi.
We'll just keep doing that the whole
Time.
Great. We'll work on our timing. But yeah, just some background for you. So about a year and a half, we started putting together this rebuild program, right? So we went to community meetings. We listened. What we heard was a number of things. So one, people were underinsured or didn't have any insurance. Two, people had multi-generational households or they lost multiple homes in their family. Three, people didn't know where to start. They didn't build their home to begin with and were overwhelmed by the process. So we kind of took that feedback and started building out our program, and that has continued to evolve over this past year and a half. So we worked on how to fill that funding gap between insurance and the cost to rebuild, how to build back more. So what do ADUs look like instead of a detached garage, like adding an extra house to your property so you can invite family back or so you can rent it out to your community. And then how do we take on, like Bryan mentioned, kind of being the one-stop shop. So being the person who takes on the burden and the stress to figure out what fits on your lot, to do the survey, to do the soil, to take on the whole process of rebuilding with you as a partner. And so that's how we built out the program. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about for the next 10 minutes or so. And then we will have time for questions and answers at the end. It's nice to do kind of broad questions. We know everyone's situation is different. So we'll be standing around too, so we can talk about your actual situation one-on-one. And then you can always give us a call. You can meet us back here at the collaboratory. You can come to our office so we can really dive deep with you and your personal situation. But let's tell you about the program. So, oh, look at that. The slide changed. Great. So we're going to talk about the process. We're going to talk about our eligibility requirements because it's a program that you apply for. We do have applications at our table up here, and they are online. We're going to talk about all the design options that we have for rebuilding, so both primary homes and accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, and what that looks like on your actual property. We're talking about the financing and how to get you into a contract, so a construction contract. So we are acting as the contractor and as a lender in some cases. And then we'll do our question and answer. And then we do have the Foothill Catalog is here. There's representatives from the Foothill Catalog. Hi, Christine. We have HEP Cares also in the back. They're wonderful case managers. Hi. There they go. So if you have questions about the general rebuilding process as well, there are other people here to support because we have partners in this. So I think I'm going to pass the mic now.
All right. Hi. So we are going to walk you through, if you choose to rebuild with SGV Habitat, we are going to walk you through what you can generally expect the process to look like if you choose to rebuild with us. So the first step in the process is to submit an application. We will review the eligibility requirements. That is generally the most tedious part of the rebuilding process is gathering all the documents. We review your eligibility, which we will review in the next slide. And then once we determine that you're eligible for the program, we start to do a deep dive into your property. What that means is that we order a survey, we do a soil test, and we start to really look at your property, your design preferences, the needs of your site, and what can really fit for you and what your rebuilding needs are. From there, we define your project and funding. So we look at what you have remaining in insurance, if there is any, and how we can help support your rebuilding efforts with grants to get you home to finalize your contract. And then we get you ready to build. And once all of that is settled, we start your construction work. So we only have two eligibility requirements, and that is your maximum household income, which is determined based on your household size. Those limits here are up on the screen. And the second requirement is that it is owner occupied, meaning that you lived in the house before the fire and that you intend to live there after the fire as well, after we rebuild. So then once we have determined that you are eligible for the program, that is when we start to do a deep dive into your property and we review what you would like to rebuild. So by now we have ordered a survey, we've ordered a soil test, and we are looking into what we actually are going to build on your site. So for SGV Habitat, we are building pre-approved catalog designs with the Foothill Catalog. We also have a few of our own designs too. We'll get into that as well. But we are building the Foothill Catalog. We are building pre-approved designs because it allows us to move through permitting much quicker. It's also more affordable. And we now have over 40 designs, as Bryan mentioned. They're scattered all across the room. We can talk to Christine about them later. The Foothill Catalog also has a station here at the Collaboratory. We're going to go through a few of those designs here. We have the Lewis, which is one of the first designs of the Foothill Catalog. And we're just going to flip through these quickly. We have the Lewis. The Gregory is one of the modern designs. We also have the Carmelina, which is a larger Spanish style design. The Daisy. There's a bunch of ADUs we are also building with the Foothill Catalog. The Daisy is one of the ADUs. They also have the Calando, which is a Spanish style ADU. This can also be built as a craftsman style design with the option to add an attached garage, a 1 or 2 car attached garage. The Oma, as Laura mentioned, you can build a garage with an ADU on top. So there are plenty of options for you to rebuild with the Foothill Catalog. So these are all available online for you to review. And this is something that we work through together. So once we have taken a look at your site, we work together to determine what is the best plan for you moving forward. So whether that's just a main house, whether we're building you an ADU and a garage, it's a collaborative decision that we work through together based on what we can afford, what can fit on your site, and what your needs are for your family going forward. So once we've decided what we want to build, we work together to determine your site plan. This is an example of one of the site plans for a project that we are building for right now. So when we're building your site plan, this is what we prepare for us to submit for permits to the county. When we are building out our site plan, we are considering all of the needs of your site. And sometimes when we are building out your site plan, we realize we need to engage a civil engineer to build out a retaining wall plan, a grading and drainage plan. We really dive deep into the needs of your site to make sure that we're building back something that is safe and something that will really work for you in the long term. As you can see on this design, we have retaining walls. We are determining that they have trees on their site that they really want us to protect. We're indicating that on the site plan. We've got our driveway plan, a walkway plan. Everything that we include in our site plan is really detailed, thorough, and determined based on collaborative effort with both us at the Habitat team and with the homeowners. So all of the steps are highly collaborative and something that we work on together. And then once we have finalized our site plan, finalized what we want to build, we get to the fun part, which is making it yours. So even though we are building catalog homes, there are a lot of opportunities for us to customize and create a home that is still feeling like it is yours, something that is unique to your needs, and that isn't just something that you're going to drive along the street and feel like all of these houses are going to look the same. We have the opportunity to choose any exterior paint color, interior finishes, and we also are really allowed to make customizations on the interiors for accessibility and aging in place. So this is something that we work with you on to make sure that the home is something that will grow with you for the long term. So we can build out ramps, we can add a roll-in shower, a curb cut tub. This is something that we will work with you on to make sure that it will work with you in the long term. This is one of our paint selection options, but we can paint it any color that you like. It's another collaborative opportunity for you to make a home that feels like it is yours and not just something that's placed on the lot. All right, so now that we have built out your site plan, we've made our customizations, now we get to the part of how do we finance the project. We here on our screen have 2 real examples of how we financed 2 of our projects using a combination of financing. So the first example is someone whose insurance paid off their reverse mortgage. And these are real examples of projects that we are building for right now. So the first example is someone who had a 2-bed, 2-bath home with a carport, and we are now rebuilding for them a 3-bedroom home, 3-bed, 2-bath home with a carport that costs $700,000. They do not have any remaining insurance because their insurance was used to pay off their reverse mortgage. we were able to grant them $250,000 to rebuild their home, which left them with a gap of $450,000. To cover that gap, we are advancing them at 0% with no monthly payments, $450,000 on any wildfire recovery payment that they will receive. So as Bryan mentioned, this can be an advance on any litigation, settlement, or anything from Edison or any wildfire recovery payments that they receive. So that is how we are covering the gap between the cost to rebuild and what we were able to advance them in grants. That is how they were paying the difference. Our second example is someone who is underinsured. They originally had a 3-bed, 1-bath home. We are rebuilding for them a 3-bed, 2-bath home and a 2-bed, 1-bath ADU. The cost to rebuild is $950,000, and they only have $100,000 that they can contribute in insurance. We were able to support them for their main house with $250,000 in grants from a combination of funding sources, and we're able to advance them for the rest of the price of their main house, $300,000. So that's another advance on their wildfire recovery, any wildfire recovery payments that they receive in the future. For their ADU, we were able to grant them through a combination of funding sources, $175,000 in grants. And to cover the rest of the cost of their ADU, we're offering them 0% monthly payments to cover $125,000. So that's a 30-year fixed rate monthly payment plan for $125,000, which is about a little over $400 a month for 30 years. So 0%, 30-year fixed rate to cover $125,000. So we were able to cover a gap of $850,000 between what their insurance would cover, which is $100,000, and the gap of $850,000 to cover the total cost of their home. So we know that everyone's situation is unique. These are just two real life examples of how we're funding projects through a variety of funding sources. And we just know that everybody's situation is different, and we really want to work with you to find a plan that will support you and allow you to get back home. Okay, so thank you, and that is our presentation. And now we are opening it up to questions.
Thank you. My question is concerning eligibility for your loan. I had a reverse mortgage at the time of the fire, and with my insurance, we paid off the reverse mortgage. However, I already have construction going to rebuild. I had 2 three-bedroom units on my property. And so therefore, with the rebuilding and the amount that the insurance is paying me, there's a gap. And I need to get a loan to cover that gap. But because I'm not rebuilding with you guys, would I still be eligible for your loan to cover that gap?
Thank you for your question. Unfortunately, no, not right now. So all of our products are for people who are rebuilding with us. So it's like from start to finish with our program. So you would have already have to be part of our process, rebuilding the Foothill Catalog. So unfortunately not, but I would connect you with HEB Cares, who's in the back right now, so we can get you a case manager and try to figure out where we can fill that gap for you. But yeah, thank you for your question.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for taking your time to come here today. This program seems really great. My question is, I actually started with a separate architect in August. We just got the house for my main dwelling approved. However, on my old house, we used to have a garage and ADU combo, and my insurance didn't cover the rebuild for that. So we decided not to move forward with the carport either, as the requirement for the carport wasn't required anymore. And so we wanted to put those funds towards possibly building that down the line. If we only wanted to build the garage and ADU with your program, is that something that's possible?
Did everyone hear that question? So the questions, have you already started to rebuild? Can you rebuild with us, either like a garage or an ADU separately? And the answer is yes. So if you've already started working on your primary home build, or even if you've started working on an ADU and you need a primary home, we can work with you on just an ADU. So I'll get your information after. We can kind of talk through what that would look like. But yes, absolutely, we could build ADU only as well. as primary only or a combination of the two. So thank you for asking that. We probably should have said that. So thank you. We'll add that to the presentation.
Are the Habitat programs available to people who own homes that have land space that want to build an ADU to house fire survivors?
Another great question. So the question is, if you still have a home standing, like you didn't lose your home in the fire, can you still build an ADU back, perhaps to house fire survivors? And yes, so we have an ADU program that is accessible to everybody. We also have a home preservation program. So if you do need, I was talking earlier to somebody, if you need repairs on a home, like your home is still standing, we can look at that too. And it's not just for Altadena, we do anyone affected by the Eaton fire. So Altadena, Pasadena, Sierra Madre. And yes, the ADU program would be open to them as well.
Am I correct that the person is out of the 125, that's what they're obligated for? The 900 is covered, all but 125?
Yes, so that was for their ADU. So we have 0% interest loans. That was exactly right. They have a $125,000 loan on their ADU that they made monthly payments to us for.
Yeah, that was their only monthly payment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that was, what was the main house?
No monthly payments. So our goal is really to get you back in the primary home without you having to take on additional commercial debt. The ADU is a little bit different because it's usually an additional unit that then you can get rental income from. So our goal in that case would be that your payment to us, I think you mentioned was about $400 for that person, would be much lower than if you went, and you rented it out for $1,000 to your friend down the street. So we're putting you in a better position.
So the 0% income payments, is that a qualification that based on your income?
The program itself is an income qualified program, so you have to be under a certain limit to qualify for our program. And then all the funding sources kind of have their own guidelines. Some of them are for low income only, some of them are for what we put up on the screen. And so there's an income qualification guideline.
I have a batch of questions, which I'll ask you privately, but I just want to voice some of them. If you mentioned someone over there is already in process building their house, but wanted assistance with an ADU. If you haven't started the process on your front house, can you still work with Habitat to rebuild your ADU if you're going to use someone else to do your front house? Yeah. Okay. And then a question that Bryan said earlier, or just said, like, you should definitely look into the fast pay for Southern California Edison. If you know someone who reached out to them and was offered an insulting amount, like $300,000, then what are you supposed to do with that? Like, should I bother even finding out what it is? If I know someone who, like, they, flip them the finger saying, like, here you go, so there's that. And then if there's something that works for the Foothill Catalog for you, but you need to make a modification to it because you need to attach another unit or a garage or music studio or something like that. Is that a possibility, or is it just what's on here and you can't make any kind of modification to Foothill? Last question. Is to Habitat the builders, or are there other independent builders? Like, are these volunteers building your house, or are these like people that are contracted that have licenses to like rebuild homes and stuff?
All good questions. Thank you. I'm going to work backwards. So we are a licensed contractor. So we do a lot of volunteer builds. We've been really, really lucky that we've had an amazing amount of community support and volunteers who are building back a lot of these homes. And then we use subcontractors as well. So we use, like, the foundation is done by a subcontractor, not volunteers. Although I'm sure volunteers would love to put their handprints in all the foundations. We kind of have a strategy on how to do that. And we also have subcontractors who build back the entire homes, because that is one of the ways that we scale up. It's like, we love working with our volunteers, but it does take more time. And so we use both. We use subcontractors and our volunteers. And then when we're using volunteers, we have our staff, our construction staff on site to monitor those volunteers. I know we have volunteers sitting here who have been out there on site. So thank you very much. So we use both. That was that last question. I'm going to let Bryan has a mic, so let him do the Edison one. What was your one before that? Thank you. Yes. So kind of a two-part. So the Foothill Catalog is always adding designs. I'd say some of them because we have come to Christine and been like, oh, we've talked to homeowners. Can you add this? And so we are limited to building back our habitat designs and the Foothill Catalog designs, but that doesn't mean you couldn't add something in the future. We couldn't talk to you about what it looks like now. So I'd say like we are building back just these footprints and floor plans, but I would let yourself kind of think through all those things and probably talk to the Foothill Catalog of how we can kind of join up what you need and what they have. Do you want to take the fast pay one?
Sure.
I saw you grab the mic, so.
That's me. I was looking for the mic. But so a couple of things. The reason why it gets difficult for us to modify the plans is we then have to go back to the county and start over as if it's a brand new project. And so we really lose the advantage of having a pre-approved housing plan. And it costs a lot more money and it takes a lot more time. And so that's why we're really trying to stay away from that. But with the number of projects that the Foothill has put out, there may be something there already that with a slight difference would work. So instead of maybe having a sound studio attached to your house, maybe it's detached, where we built a garage and there's sound studio or something of that nature. So we can have to be a little adaptive. Or if you know exactly what you want, and it's something that the Foothill Catalog says, oh, I could see why a lot of people might want this. They are looking to meet the needs of the community. They are a partner with the community just like we are. That's why we have 40 designs instead of 3 that we started out with, because we realize that the need is so large. As far as the Edison goes, that's a really unique situation. And I can tell you that the way that they do it is very individual based. So, that number seems on the small side to me. I without knowing anything whatsoever, I would tell you that sounds like an outlier, and there was something else that was attached to it, because they have minimums for each of these different categories, and that 300,000 is below any minimum that I've seen. So, as a matter of fact, I would strongly recommend we have a contact, a customer service person at Edison for situations like this in which the numbers don't sound right, and we have a person that they will walk through it. Again, I would strongly say talk to Lori, and we'll make sure we get you a person. And if the answers you're getting are not sounding right, they do listen to us when we call. We will be happy to advocate.
Is there a particular department here that could help walk some people through what you can actually build, whether it's like for like or something else? Because that's so confusing. Like my wife and I have just months and months of trying to figure it out. Like, what can we actually do? And we don't know. We just draw things on pieces of paper and we're like, can we even do this? We had 3 structures. I don't know. And they tell us something different every time we go to the one stop. So who could help us with that? Because, oh my God, it's taking so much time. It's killing me.
So the answer to all your questions is your new one stop, which is Lori. And honestly, your situation is the norm. That's not an aberration. Your situation is the norm. Each family has a very unique situation. And this is why every person we work with has to have conversation so we can go over what your real needs are. There's some real differences. Before the fire started, the average age of the families we've been working with are like 75 years old. When they first bought the house, they may have been in their 30s or their 40s. Here's an opportunity that maybe when you built your house or you bought your house, you didn't need accessible bathroom. You didn't need handrails. You didn't need room for a wheelchair. You didn't need ramps. You didn't need doorknobs for somebody in your family that might have arthritis. Here is an opportunity to talk about the things that you need today, not just what you had, but what you need. And that's where we can help you. This is where just having an individual conversation, not necessarily about what you lost, but what we can put back for you.
And that takes a conversation, honestly, because every family is different.